time, I'd like to call the Village of Midlothian regularly scheduled board meeting for May 27th to order. Roll call.
Trustee Gillis.
Here.
Trustee Ivan.
Here.
Trustee Kildee. Trustee Kreis.
Here.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Mosco.
Here.
And Ryder.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Please stand for the pledge, and after the pledge, please stay standing to remember our veterans. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to call Officer Ken Hoffman to the front to be sworn in. Ken, do you have somebody here who would like to come with you?
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Ken Hoffman,
I, Kenneth Hoffman,
having been appointed
having been appointed
to the position of probationary police officer
to the position of probationary police officer
in the Village of Midlothian
in the Village of Midlothian
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
aforesaid do solemnly swear
enforced do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and ordinances of the Village of Midlothian,
and ordinance of the Village of Midlothian,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the position
the duties of this position
of probationary police officer
of probationary police officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. And now, if Mike Dillenbeck could please come forward to be sworn in as a new firefighter paramedic for the Village of Midlothian. Did you have anybody you wanted to? Can't pass it along.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Michael Dillenbeck,
I, Michael Milbeck,
having been appointed
have been appointed
to the position of probationary firefighter 2 EMT
to the position of probationary firefighter 2 EMT
in the Village of Midlothian
in the Village of Midlothian,
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
aforesaid do solemnly swear
first I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the Village of Midlothian,
and the ordinances of the Village of Midlothian,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the position
the duties of the position
of probationary firefighter 2 EMT
of probationary firefighter 2 EMT
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
And the last swearing in we have this evening is Juan Ramirez. You'll come up and get sworn
I, Juan Ramirez,
I, Juan Ramirez,
having been appointed
having been appointed
to the position of probationary firefighter 2 EMT
to the position of firefighter 2 in
in the village of Midlothian,
the village of Midlothian,
in the county of Cook,
in the county of Cook,
aforesaid do solemnly
I
swear
foresaid solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
the Constitution of the state, Constitution of the state of Illinois,
the ordinances of the village of Midlothian,
the ordinances of the village of Midlothian,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the position
the duties of the position
of probationary firefighter 2 EMT,
for
probationary,
probationary firefighter
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
And now, if anybody just came for the swearing in, we'll actually let you off the hook because the clock started already. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you do not want to. I can really barely. No, you guys stay. At this time, I will open the floor to public comment. If anybody would like to address the board, now is your time.
I don't have any CRS updates today, but do you know what the status is of the Ricky Rockets redevelopment agreement?
We were actually just discussing it. We're getting really, really close with the RDA, the redevelopment agreement, and we're hoping to have it soon. Beginning of June is what we're aiming for.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have any, what's going on with the water bills? Is that being followed up on, or?
Yes, actually, within the last couple weeks, I determined that there were a number of things in our ordinances that were not consistent with the ICC rules and regulations for notifying people of shut-offs and what the process needs to be to follow those. So we've actually come to prepare a document, which hopefully our attorney has received already from Nicole. We've gone through the list of what those rules and regulations are, where there are differences in our ordinances, and we'll be making some changes to the ordinances and also crafting a policy in-house. The balances have been going down. I don't have an update since last Tuesday, but we have been following up on the collections. The oldest buckets, as I recall from the report, have been decreasing, meaning the aging buckets, the oldest bills are going down. Something else I was going to update in my business, but I'll just share now, is that we sent an email blast out about 2 weeks ago to individuals who had accounts set up online to pay their water bills, asking if people would be interested in signing up for e-billing. And last week, the committee I discussed with the board preparing, printing some postcards to send to the other roughly 3,500 water bill accounts that we have in the village, asking those individuals to also sign up for the automated billing, hoping that people will notice they can pay their bills monthly instead of waiting for a quarterly bill. And we're also going to try and proactively call people before they get to a shut-off point. We're still working on the details of that, but thinking that we'll make some better progress by being proactive before people get to a shut-off point, once they get it a month after the quarterly bill.
All very possible.
Yes.
I have no idea why my heart was pounding so hard while the room was packed, because if I have a bass in my hand, I'm okay. As I've stood here before, and I do tonight, some point in time in this meeting, your job titles are going to change, at least most of yours. So I figured, really quick, since I've been quite silent these past few months, don't know if you've noticed or not, but I've been trying to work on a rain-ready garden in my house, or outside of, not in my house, outside. So anyway, I thought I'd really quick go through a very short list, but I find it to be a critical list to make sure that no matter who stays or who shifts, kind of thing, that these topics can't be forgotten. Trustee Gillis, really quick, you and I had talked about getting some sort of measuring poles into Natalie Creek. At some point in the next week, you might want to reach out to the Department of Natural Resources. I found out that somebody who works for them had an old proposal for sponsorship of basically that kind of a theory, you know, where there would be mileage signs and things like that. So it might be that we can become that prototype district where they can kind of sample and use us as the trial area and then roll it out further. Trustee Ivan, you have one lingering from when you were a citizen, and I put it to you tonight, strong, hard, and still is just as determined as ever. These meetings need to be videotaped, period. Now that you're a trustee, I once again, though, am still going to follow through on the same thing I've asked of you all these times. We need to get this done, and sooner rather than the later, please, because all of us deserve it. To me, it makes all of us better people when we can't make meetings. If a trustee misses a meeting, think about it. Some of you have turned to my videos. How about turn to the village's videos? As for you, Trustee Kreis, a roof on the Historical Society still lingers, and what I would put to you is this. As I've voiced my concern about trusting where funds go that are donated, and that the Historical Society apparently draws from general funds and things like that, I still strongly believe we could raise enough funds to get that roof, you know, the work done. We just need to know where the money is gonna go. So if you are still interested in heading that direction, I know I am too. And I would be more than happy to put whatever ideas and energy I have towards getting that solution, because it's been now almost 2 years since, you know, I brought it to your attention. So we're all good on that.
That issue is
In the process, right.
Yes.
Exactly. So it's more of that keep on following through. If the dollar signs interfere, we need to just simply get it fixed. And if we have to do fundraising of even possibly selling some of the memorabilia, who knows? I mean, we may have valuable artifacts in there. Trustee Moskal, reports, period. You've done so good in getting us so far in making sure that you've been nipping at everyone's heels. Doesn't matter who it was still, I want this report kind of thing, but you can't let go. We're still at a point where you couldn't give numbers and things like that, and I certainly hope, you know, no matter what travels you take, you'll still just be as strong as an advocate, because I don't have time, and neither does a lot of other people in that matter too. Trustee Killelea, the flood report direction I dropped off for you for your review. I heard that we can have multiple newsletters. For years, you and I have bantered back and forth before you were in office, during office. I would ask of you to consider this to be one of the greatest opportunities that we've got, and that we have such powerhouses that are interested to help, that we can really churn out not just a village newsletter, but yes, something for you guys, for the CRS focused topic. And lastly, Trustee LaRue. Please don't. You being the community policing liaison, even prior to our really getting in-depth in conversation, has always been one of the reasons why I have believed in Midlothian as much as I do. Because even though you and I have had distance in our definitions of what community policing is, every single time I've brought up topics to you, no matter how you know, sporadic or whatever, you didn't disrespect where my heart was, and you at least tried to grasp where I wanted to head. And more often than not, you were able to do something about it. This summer, things seem to even be more tense than ordinary kind of thing when it comes to policing and things like that. And I certainly hope, whether you stay community policing or not, that you remain one of those spokespeople, because I do think that your military experience helps you be able to talk with anybody. And it doesn't matter who you're talking to, you want to hear, okay, tell me the details, you know, yes sir, yes ma'am. So I hope you won't let go of what you've already brought, no matter what your job title ends up being. So I think I covered all my notes for the past few months that are sitting in a spiral notebook, so thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the board? If not, I will close the floor to public comment. At this time, trustees, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. On the consent agenda this evening, we have the minutes for March 25th board meeting, April 1st committee meeting, April 8th board meeting, April 15th committee meeting with the corrections as given by trustee Price, the bill list, the monthly department reports from the building, fire, police, and public works.
I'll make the motion.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Maskell.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Okay. We'll move on now to trustee business. Trustee Kreis?
I had asked Attorney Gleason to put together a redevelopment agreement for right-way. We were supposed to have a meeting with them today, which has been postponed until next week, with one of the principals, Michigan Chase Diggins, correct?
Three.
Pardon me?
Three.
Three of them?
Three.
And I actually received an email from their developer today asking, is the redevelopment agreement ready for their review? Now, everybody's had the redevelopment agreement. I sent all of you a lot of information this past week. Are there any questions or comments? I actually have a couple comments or questions, but I'll let everybody else go
We didn't
first.
put anything about the average price of the cars, you know.
On purpose, correct. I think I'll let Attorney Gleason address that.
In the right way, I wasn't asked to put that in that agreement, so I didn't put it in that.
Okay, you want it in there then?
Yes.
Okay.
Similar to,
Cars 147.
yes.
And I guess, anybody else have any comments about?
You talked about removing and tearing down, they're tearing down the little brick shed.
That has to come down.
I didn't know if it meant just removing the trailer or removing the trailer and tearing down the brick building.
They have to give us a site plan, so that
Right.
yeah, but I think that's what's intended, is they're gonna remove the temporary structures that are there and place a little permanent one, so that's like a,
The brick building.
yeah, the current building, yeah, I think it's supposed to come down to. So they're gonna have an office building and a parking building center, that's what they're proposing.
I guess, should that be specifically outlined in here, that they're gonna remove that?
Yeah,
It says removal and
Okay.
demolition, something like that,
Yeah, that's
of existing buildings.
The other comment I had, I mean, this is pretty, it's not as strict or stringent as our other redevelopment agreements. I would like something in there, and I went by there today, and the grass isn't even being cut on the parkway. Just that they need to maintain, I don't think you put that in here, Bill, about maintaining the property in accordance with, all of which codes, it just looked like, it's paved, that lot is paved, but there's some vegetation growing through the cracks. And the other question I had, or comment, on page 5, was if they default, the $50,000, did we have anything, I don't recall having that in any other development agreements.
I put it in there because, when I started to think about it, if we give them the Class 8 and then they don't do anything, there's really nothing we can do. We can't get the county to take it
To
back.
rescind the Class 8.
So I was trying to come up with something that would behoove them to do what they say they're going to do. And that was just a proposal that I was gonna put out there for them to consider.
Well, to me, that seems a little, I don't know, it just seemed like they're gonna look at that, and I really want to work with them. You know, they got a lot of cars on that lot. So, anybody else have any thoughts about the 50,000?
Well, Karen, why don't we leave it in and let them ask us to remove it? That
Okay.
could be one of the things we
Negotiating,
negotiate. That's, would be my recommendation.
We left out the sales tax, yeah.
There's no sales.
There's no,
There is no-
we told them one or the other.
They back up.
No,
Let me-
they want both.
And trustee Liver, this is for one parcel. They own, I want to say 5,
Pins.
they have 5 separated parcels, so this would only apply to one
Where they're at,
parcel,
yeah.
so the one where the building is at. So it
Right.
wouldn't change any of the property taxation on the other property that they own, so it's lots.
And any you know, on the other side, we're talking about streetscape. Any thoughts about streetscape? And we can throw everything we want and then let them bark about it, but I mean, why not do it like that side?
We have nothing as far as a plan for that area to give them as an idea.
Give them the other side.
What's wrong with it?
Not trees. We can't do trees.
Trees are very detrimental to
Yes,
park
right,
dealerships,
right.
they don't want them.
But
But I mean, a
why
potted
not?
plant would be nice.
We could ask them for a landscaping plan.
Yeah, I would. Why not make it look nice? I think that's for their benefit too. I think the nicer it looks, the better off they get too. Hopefully you see that.
Anybody else? Okay, so Attorney Gleason, if you could get this revised, get it to me, and I can get it to the developer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then hopefully we'll have a meeting next week and we can start moving this along because I think it would be good for the,
Should have it by the end of business on Friday.
okay. Okay, next item on my agenda is just something that I have put in, incredible hours. And again, it's not to be punitive to the employees. The whole purpose in this policy is to mitigate legal liabilities to the village. And so there were some comments that the board received. So I reached out to the attorney and asked him to review the policy, but also asked him for a finding on the village's liability. And I sent the board all the emails, so the board has all the information. And I just want to read this one part, and maybe we can discuss it, because I think it's really imperative that we lock this policy up. I want to move on to the next one. The purpose of the use of the village vehicle is not what determines primary insurance coverage. I think that's key. Instead, it is the owner of the vehicle, which is the village, which provides primary insurance coverage. As such, any and all claims made based upon injuries occurring in a village-owned vehicle will be attributable to the village's insurance policy, regardless of the purpose of use at the time of the incident. This would include claims by any individual who is a passenger in the village-owned vehicle who is injured, as well as any drivers, passengers, or any other vehicle involved in an accident with the village-owned vehicle. It could also include the employee if it was in a non-work-related function, he/she was operating the car, or members of his family whom could make claims based upon accidents in the vehicle. The employee's individual insurance coverage would only serve as an excess policy to the extent that it applied at all when operating the village-owned vehicle. This would mean that the entirety of your policy would have to be maxed out prior to the employee's insurance policy even being considered for payment. So I think, again, if there's an accident, the village incurs the liability. I mean, we are liable. It's a village-owned vehicle. So I'd like board comment on this while the attorney is here, so he can hopefully help us tie up the loose ends on this policy. He pointed out some other things that maybe we can incorporate in the policy. I do not hold a law degree. I did the best I could drafting this policy. And again, what I did was take the language from 4 or 5 other towns. I'm a big proponent of R&D, rip off and duplicate. So I just took what this is based on the comments that I received from this board. So comments, questions, so we can move forward and get this thing resolved.
Do we still, do we still have the issue with Public Works? Some of the union members who have taken vehicle, would that not be negotiated?
Well, right now, they would be, they're not union yet, correct? So they would still be covered under this policy.
They are the union.
Okay, so then that would have to be amended, correct?
I think you have to negotiate with them prior to implementing.
Okay, so I can take out that I can take out those positions. That would simply be taking those out of this policy, correct? Because it identifies it's by position.
Correct.
So I would take those. I would take those out. And then you said you could have that negotiated, correct?
Correct. I can
Okay.
make the proposal. We're bargaining with them right now.
Okay. So I'll take the Public Works Union people and I have to add the, as you pointed out, the lieutenant. Correct? And take the detectives out. Okay. But any other comments?
You know, I think it was a year before it came on the board, there was an accident that we had in one of our departments, village-owned vehicle. And it was a serious accident. And basically, we kept on, thought, okay, we're insured. But you gotta realize that insurers make money by charging excess of what their claims are. And we paid in excess of what our claim was by a lot. Over the next 5 years, I would suspect that because our premiums kept on going up and up and up and up and up. And we probably paid over in excess of, for that claim, I think we paid over $1 million extra over what we should have, just because of that one claim, because our experience was bad. And what we're trying to do here is for the vehicle policy is to try to prevent an accident like that would, of course, we want to prevent accidents and we don't want anybody hurt. And also we want to try to be responsible to the taxpayers and take care of them and try to mitigate any big raise in risk insurance. Risk insurance, when it goes up, doesn't go by $5,000, $10,000, it goes up by hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, you know, that's something that's very important. And, you know, I was just reading an article from Hinsdale. Hinsdale last year took away about half of its cars from its crew. And basically, I think they cut it down to 7-1, I think, is the village manager. And they're looking at making more cuts in the future as they find out what the remaining vehicles are, what their usage is. It's the same exact thing. We have to take care of our, make sure we're responsible with our risk insurance, with our risk policy, and also, you know, this year I think the department heads have done a great job of finding money here and there and under every hook and cranny for buying extra new or used vehicles. They've done a fantastic job with that. And part of the money we used was from the capital improvement fund, which is quickly running out. We have to find ways to extend the life of our village vehicles somehow. And if we can, you know, we have through this policy reduced some of the usage from some positions, and also maybe when they're non-business driving, we can reduce a little bit. We're going to extend the life of those vehicles. So I think that's what the purpose of this policy is. And one of the interesting thing I think I learned was I read somebody else's big policy, wasn't in even Illinois, it was in Delaware or something like that. But according to what they say, if it's a vehicle that has our name on it and it's used for emergency purposes, that basically won't be designated as a personal use vehicle, so it's not taxable by IRS regulations. So that's we want to try to be fair as we possibly can with this, but it's important to make sure that we are responsible as we possibly can in this usage of those vehicles.
I also have a comment on it. Just to clarify, that this is no way meant to impede anybody's judgment on using a vehicle. I know with Public Works and Fire Department, they've done a great job of keeping tabs of mileage, usage. I know Chief Hotwood in particular has cut the gas use of vehicles almost outrageously. It's been a great savings. He in turn has done internal policies to make sure that there was no abuse of vehicles during off-duty time, and the same with Public Works. I don't want them to get the understanding that this is done to take away from what they have done. I know the fire department is a little bit different, and there are some issues I think that need to be addressed, and one of them is a concern of having a command staff readily available when they are in their vehicle, because that's part of their equipment. I think we're going to take some sort of response time away, because if they are in their personal car for some reason, or they have to go back to their house to get the vehicle, it is going to be a delay in response. I don't know if this is going to be greatly affecting how our residents are taken care of or not. I do have a little bit of concern regarding that, because it does create a lack of response, because he's going to have to go back or come to the station to get his vehicle. We are aware of that. I guess it's going to be something we're going to have to, work out the glitches if we're going to do this policy the way it's set up. I don't know if this is going to work because of that. I just want the board to be aware of that. I read Chief Hal Wagner's comments, and I'm sure everybody else had a chance to read them. There is a lot of value in him being able to respond as soon as possible. So I guess I just wanted to make sure the board is aware of that, and that's something that we have to take into consideration. And the same with Public Works. I mean, it's going to create an issue if there is a delay. It may not be a life safety issue, but it's still an emergency issue. So I guess the big thing is, if it's not abused and we are recording it in a timely manner, and there is no harm in having him be able to run from A to B, I just want to make sure that we are taking that into consideration. That's all.
Do you have any suggested language change that would accommodate that? I guess that's what I'm looking for. Maybe the attorney can help craft that. Again, it's not to be punitive, but it's to mitigate our risk liability. And that's how I approached it. And I'm just looking for some specific language where we can address these concerns. I want to be fair to everybody, the employees, but also to the taxpayers as we look at reducing risk.
And I totally agree with you, Karen, about reducing our risk exposure. But I know, being up here and having the opportunity to talk with all the chiefs and even Joe Sperry over in Public Works personally, and getting their feeling and their input, I see what these guys do in their vehicles. And you know what? I'm not bothered when I see one of my firefighters up at Burkhatch doing their grocery shopping, because I've actually been in the store talking to them. They get a call, they leave their cart there and leave and go respond to the call. They don't even finish their grocery shopping. It's not like they don't take that responsibility to heart when they're doing this. And my concern, and as we keep going through and we have to negotiate with this union and this union and this union, if you keep on looking at the list, it's getting less and less of how many take-home vehicles we're actually talking. I would rather just hold the individuals who are personally using our vehicles, hold them responsible. And you know what? If you find one of them abusing their rights to use the car, then you take them off to the side, write them up, put it on their file, and instead of, I don't know, it almost feels like overkill to a little bit of concern. Do you know what I'm saying? I know I'm saying that wrong, but it just seems like you're trying to create an entire policy to handle just a couple of people, where I think we could handle it better internally. And I don't know if Bill could write something along that line, that if you're going to, like almost a contract with them, if you're going to be using a village-owned vehicle, that you'll abide by these rules, you'll do this, you'll do that. And just leave them with the power and the ability to be able to make their responses in a timely fashion.
I don't think any of our department heads or personnel have abused it or anything. Like I said, I think they have been more stringent on managing and doing things the way we would expect them to do. And I don't think it's an issue. But I understand that the insurance aspect of it, the liability of it, there is a way to maybe tweak it where they are allowed to go from A to B without having to be in a personal vehicle and still be able to respond to an emergency situation. I think it would be in our best interest to try to tweak it to give them that opportunity, because it's going to be a benefit for us. And I don't think, if you do the pros and cons, you know, I don't see any abuse being taken by letting Chief Outlander stop at the store on the way home instead of going to his house to get his car and come back here, and then he gets called, he's gotta go back to his house to get it. I mean, for the last, 80 some odd years, our chiefs have been doing that, our departments have been doing it, and there really hasn't been a whole lot of abuse. I'm not gonna say that there has, because I think we are aware that without having guidelines, we did have issues in the past. But I think the department heads that we have now have taken the matter in their hands and have done a fine job doing that. I would like to see if there's a way to tweak it where we can allow them to do some of the things that they've been doing in town to keep the vehicle without it being an issue. I don't know the way to term that in the contract or in the policy, but if there's a way to do it, I'd like to see it happen.
Well, I've sent this out to everybody, I don't know how many times, and I've not really gotten a lot of comments back, other than from the attorney, because he had to do his legalese. So, again, if you have specific language, send it to me. I think, Mayor, we do need a policy. I think that in the event we were to have an incident, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Gleason, if we don't have a formal policy adopted, it doesn't give us a whole lot of recourse as far as how we handle the situation. So,
The policy can make exceptions for certain positions, I mean.
well, I think there's language that can be added based on what you're saying. But if anybody has specific language, please send it to me. I can work with the attorney. If that's the big issue, maybe we can find a way to fine tune this, as long as there are not any other issues with other parts of the policy. But I'm looking for direction. I can go back and try and find some language that would make it work. Run it by the attorney. I'm looking to you for guidance as far as do we need a policy.
I believe the police and fire department had internal workers on it. So this would be more of a policy that's probably going to apply to the public works people. And gentlemen can correct me if I'm wrong. I know Hal does.
Yes,
you have policies for 30 years.
I do believe the Public Works has a vehicle use policy. I don't know if it covers, taking it home, but they do have their own little rules that they follow.
And again, most of this I took from other towns, so it's working in other towns for some reason.
Did you see any verbiage on use of vehicles? Does any department let department heads take your vehicles home and use them for personal need?
I didn't call, I strictly looked at the policies. I did not call, if you have a
I
policy.
did, no, I actually did call and check with other towns to see if their police, fire chiefs, how they do it. When I was trying to get the other information for our other issue, I asked that question, and almost every town I talked to, every fire chief, every police chief, every deputy, they all get take-home vehicles, and they're not even really strict on, you can't use it for personal use at all. So it's all over the charts out there, who's doing what. I mean, they might have this policy, I don't know how closely they follow their policies.
Okay, well, and what I did was I took specific policies. I did. I will look out, I'm sure it's in your binder up there, right? I'll read it, I will read it. And Chief Hotwagner, if you could give me your policy?
We don't have any policy on take-home vehicles.
You don't, okay. Okay, I will look at the police department, I'll try to get some, but if the board has other language.
Well, the big question is how do you, the mayor talked about, how do you define abuse? That's the big question we're
That's
talking
why you
about.
have to have a policy.
That's the big problem. You need a policy or a department policy or something. What defines abuse?
Because you can't really
And
address a
unless you have
problem
something in
unless you
writing,
have a
you
policy.
need, right.
Excuse me, may I ask a clarification question? I understand the necessity of having the chiefs and the public and Joe, bring their car home in the evening, so if there's a disaster in the middle of the night and they need to get somewhere, if they've got their village vehicle. But what about on the weekends? Like if somebody decides they want to go to a Sox game or a Bears game or out golfing? should that be excluded? If it's their day off and they decide they want to go to a Bears game or a Sox game or out golfing, should they use their personal vehicle and not a village vehicle?
They do
I
use
believe
their
they all
Okay,
do use
because-
their
And,
personal.
and also.
Ours have been there.
And also, is there an express statement going to be in the policy that if they do use a village vehicle for an outing such as that, let's say they get invited to go to a golf outing that's being sponsored by another village, so they do take their village vehicle. Is there going to be express language in the policy that absolutely prohibits any consumption of alcohol while they're driving the village vehicle?
Is that something that's not in here? And I would defer that question to the attorney.
I think that's a totally reasonable policy. I don't think any other employee should be consuming any alcohol and driving.
That's already.
Well, our vehicles have been tailgating
Can't drive
at
any vehicle
games.
with alcohol related.
I'm sorry?
Our vehicles have been tailgating at games. That's why we're asking. So if you're trying to refine a policy from further problems or liability for an employee and passengers, that would make sense that they shouldn't drive, because they're no good driving drunk fast to get back to something. That doesn't make any sense. It's just a responsibility on their part to not drive a
Somebody is
vehicle.
drinking alcohol in their vehicle, we need to know. If they're tailgating with that, we need to know, because it's not allowed in any way whatsoever. We have detectives that are on call all the time, 24 hours a day. 2 out of 3 of them are always on call. For a homicide task force, for detectives division to respond. They can't drink, they can't do anything basically during that 2 out of 3 weeks. It's a big burden to be on call like that. So there is, and I can reassure you that if anyone in my department ever was caught in a vehicle, whether it's work, off work, whatever, it's a village-owned vehicle, they'll be terminated. That's the bottom line.
I would say-
I would file for something to be terminated immediately and have a hearing, because it's not allowed. And I just find it hard to believe that anybody, you know, I could almost guarantee it wasn't from my department.
It wasn't from your
You
department.
know, so if somebody was doing it, that department head needs to know.
But that Midlothian truck was there at that football game, and yes, they were drinking.
Somebody needs to know about it as far as.
Well, I would say, if you see that, I would suggest you get the plate number
Well,
down.
it's not about being a telltale, but you're talking about a policy, so it would
Yes.
only seem smart that that would be part of the policy, that if you're going somewhere and you're gonna be drinking, you shouldn't be driving that vehicle, because you're putting the village in a
Yes.
very big risk position. Accidents are accidents, but that's asking for an accident.
Also, there shouldn't be anybody riding in these vehicles that isn't employed by the village.
That was one of the liability issues that I reached out to the attorney about.
Yes.
That was one of the liability issues. If anybody has any other comments, could you please get them to me? I will work with you, Attorney Gleason, to try to craft this and finalize it. I have, any other comments?
In general, doesn't, when somebody's on call, isn't there a subordinate that's supposed to back them up? So if they can't make it in a timely time, that subordinate is then notified and they respond then to the problem or the issue? Is that like across all departments?
No. There's one deputy chief on duty, or a chief on duty, and when we have the duty shift for the fire department, there's always a deputy chief or a person acting out of class who would be the senior firefighter, paramedic that day. On off-duty response, Chief Hotwire sets up a schedule with the deputy chiefs who's on call. It would be one of them. If somebody can't make it, they would call the other one to.
So there's a backup system?
Yes.
So isn't that across all the departments, including public works?
Yes.
Building department? So timeliness shouldn't be an issue because they can always call the subordinate. So there's no reason for somebody to be shopping in Terre Haute, so it's with a village vehicle. So, I don't think you get any more simpler than that to define the policy, and I think it covered it pretty well
I
already.
think it did, and there's gonna be
So-
required mileage reports, so it just makes sense.
The whole alcohol drug thing, with that, I didn't even notice that, so I think that'd be important
It
to add
makes
as
common
well.
sense. It's illegal to drive and
Yeah.
drink, whether you're in your car or a village car, so it's not.
Or sorry, if you're incapacitated in general, depending on what your thing of choice is. I'll read to cover that.
I will defer that one to the attorney to give me some specific language on that.
Because if you're like a medical,
I thought you caught it originally where you said you were gonna follow all federal, state, and
Federal,
local
state, local
ordinances.
ordinances,
That would
right?
include driving under the influence of
But
alcohol
maybe it
or
needs
drugs.
to be-
They can make it very explicit.
Make
too.
it very explicit.
Oh, yeah, but isn't it the more explicit you make it, the more likely it can be challenged? You know, if you actually, because you might miss something specifically when you state it in the,
When fraud like that, if you walked into a hearing and somebody violated that, it says right here, you have to follow the law
Right.
and drive the car, and you didn't, and if I can prove that, that's probably cause to get rid of most people.
well, that's what I'm saying, I'm agreeing with the broad statement versus something more specific.
I think you could do both.
You could do
I would
both.
do both, yeah, I would leave all the laws as kind of a catch-all, but something specific to kind of highlight in the minds of everybody, don't take our cars and drink alcohol.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we need to address something where they can use it when they're in town, stopping at the grocery store. There's gotta be some language, if that's what the board wants. I'm asking for the board's pleasure right now. But pretty much the policy, the other parts of the policy are gonna remain. Is that correct? Is that the understanding that I'm getting?
Yes, I think so. The traveling to and from their home, though, if they want to do personal stuff to and from their home, that would be okay, I would think, in a general
Right, and I'm gonna
situation.
look for some,
But if Terre Haute again is not on the way home,
right,
then that would be a violation of the policy.
right. Okay, so I'm hopefully, with the input that I just received, and the attorneys heard your concerns as well, without too much more time, we can finalize this. Okay, I know the talks are on it, I'm sorry, it's on the agenda this evening. The next item is the donation and use agreement and ordinance for the Illinois Green Infrastructure Grant and the $20,000 that the VFW has committed for the project. And Mr. Hilliard, I don't know if you're not interested?
Nope.
Okay. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions. I have,
I have a stupid question.
pardon me?
I have a stupid question. Is they going to basically use the parking lot, is that what they're intended?
Well, the parking lot is gonna be parked, there's gonna be a park there as well. Okay? And actually,
But the park is basically going to be usable in the parking lot, is that what they're intended to be?
they're hoping to have some of their activities in the park area so that they don't have to pack everything up and take it to another facility. It's all right there, okay? And it's, I mean, they have to ask for permission, and they haven't seen this, and I don't know, do they have an attorney, or are you their attorney? I figured if you were, you'd don't get pro bono. Pardon?
I would have a conflict.
Okay, so, and I don't know if they're gonna agree to this. The only comment that I had after I went through this, I mean, they've got to notice us 21 days in advance. And maybe what we should do is create a form for them to fill out, because that would be based on what the attorneys outlined here, and they've got to have a game shop and all that. The only thing that I thought about, because I've been to some of their events, many of them actually, is under number 7, use or sale of alcoholic beverages. You said the possibly printed alcoholic beverages on the property period not to exceed 4 hours. Some of their events starts like at noon and maybe go till a little bit later. Do you think we could maybe extend that? I don't know if the board,
That's totally up to the board. I was trying to create some type of threshold of how long people were gonna be drinking in your park.
and they, you know, some of them, people come and go with those events. Some of them stay all day, but some of them come and go. Now, I guess we can put the 4 hours in there, or do we want to make it, what do you say? I got somebody here, George, what do you think?
4 hours is kind of a short time
That's what I thought, because I've been in a number of your
When
events.
we rent our hall, the minimum we do the hall for is 5 hours. We rent the hall out to the public.
Okay,
The
so,
minimum we do on that is 5.
so that was gonna be my suggestion, to change it to 5 hours.
Karen, you don't need any restriction. I mean, you could let them do whatever they want.
No, I think
just
we
put
do
it in there.
need some kind of parameters, because it is a park. So, again, this is a starting point, we will give it to the commander and see what they come back with.
The only problem you have is that they start at 10 o'clock in the morning and they go to 8 o'clock, you have different groups coming.
That was my
throughout the
point,
day.
people come and go.
Yeah.
And I think most of those items are covered under special event liquor license permits, so they need separate approval anyway from the liquor commissioner.
For each event?
Yes. Someone who does the liquor control officer.
Okay, I bet they're not, okay,
The way this is set up is if their drain insurance will cover them walking over there to do it, so they would be operating off their liquor license as opposed.
It has the same physical address.
Yeah, that's the whole part of it, is they have to be able to produce evidence to us that they're gonna have coverage to go over there. So their drain insurance is tied to their liquor license, so if it's covered, I think it would cover it.
Just to use a similar event, something under over Midlothian, the Park District has brand insurance license. However, an event like Thunder is considered a special use permit, which you have to apply for separately and pay for a separate permit. And that requires approval from the liquor commissioner.
And you can only get 2 a year,
And there's a limit on the number you can get per year. So my only point is those are, you have to define the start and stop times for those permits, and that has to be included in the permission letter from the liquor commissioner, and that has to be included on the insurance rider as well. And they check to make sure that it matches the rates and the terms.
okay, do you have a form that I could use?
I'll combine with, I have one that's downloaded in front of me.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
well,
is this
liquor
something we
commission
can
site.
address in this?
We will have to, and that's part of what was saying in there, is that their license would cover these events and their insurance would cover it, but if it doesn't.
I don't know what
then
the Illinois Liquor
Yeah, we're
Commission
gonna-
determines the separate,
Yeah,
I know
we're-
that it's tied to your address and your retailer license, which I'm not familiar with.
There's technically no address for this property, so I don't know how they would consider it, but absent that, I would agree with you that they have to get a separate license. So I don't know that.
They refer to them as special events.
Yeah.
Permits.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Right. Yes, George?
What we do now, when we have the pictures go with the center over there, we transfer the insurance over to there, we put it right on the insurance, jam insurance, everything else, to cover us while we're over there at the park.
So I'm gonna say, I know you guys do that, because you come over for the picnics behind
Yes.
or behind the rec center, you do that.
Yes.
And I knew you guys did something, because you can't sell alcohol at the post.
Right.
While your guys are over,
Right, we
over
transfer
there.
it over there, right.
Okay, so,
And so we can also, we can do the same thing for right around for the
The park.
park area here also.
okay, so then when if you were having an event at the park, you could not sell inside?
Well, that's because usually nobody's there.
But that would have to be very,
But we could do both with the insurance, we just have it right around both of them.
okay, they could do
Right.
both, but that would have to be covered under your drainage
Yes.
shop. Okay. So, is this something that you guys revise in here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know why we have such a restriction on the hours. I think 8 hours to me is good to go. I mean, I don't know why do we restrict it? I mean,
Well, it has to be, it's a park, so it has to be, you have to be hours like 8 or dusk. I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, let's say they had this event 10 to 8, I mean, if they had it from 12 to 8,
I don't
would it bother me?
Why not just do it the same as the other parks in town, till dusk, that's what all the,
well, you can't drink in
You
those.
can't drink in those parks.
but I'm saying, any activity has to be done by dusk. After dusk, nobody's supposed to be in any parks in town, so we should include this one the same way.
Is there any?
No, what he's saying is, how long should they be able to have alcohol out there?
No, there's no lighting in this, there's no lighting, no. So they would probably want to shut it down.
I think,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, I think your point was, can you grab a beer at the VFW post and walk over to the park with it?
That's what my understanding and their intent is to do. And that's what I was trying to capture in the agreement, is that they need to be insured and they need to indemnify the village for anything that goes wrong, because alcohol and people sometimes make bad decisions.
Why look at me though?
I wasn't casting any aspersions, just as you realized it's asking you.
Okay, so where are we? What are we having changed in this agreement so we can move this thing forward? Because this thing went out to bid today.
Change it to dusk, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. And what about the hour restrictions?
Well, since they have to give us 21 days, why don't we approve the hours of operation when they put in for their application? Because then we'll know.
Say that, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Then we'll know, oh, it's supposed to go from 12 to 8, and we can decide if we want to.
Okay. So, should we table this, or can we approve it based on the changes that we have made? That we've asked the attorney to make? I'm asking.
I would like to see if we could get it all cleaned up and then
Okay.
get it approved later.
Okay. Then, I will make a motion to table.
I'll say.
Okay.
Roll call?
That's the donation agreement.
Yeah.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Tilley.
Aye.
Trustee Maskell.
Aye.
Okay, we're close. Hopefully next board meeting gets approved, okay? United States EPA Phase 2 updates. Last week, we received the Phase 2 for the Chevy property. I sent it to Mr. Hoekstra, the broker. I also sent it to Attorney Gleason. I also sent the Reader's Digest version to Attorney Gleason. And I sent the Reader's Digest version of the Phase 2 for the Chrysler property to Attorney Gleason. We should have the Phase 2 this week for the Chrysler property as well, which you indicated the attorney for Drive Time wanted. Correct?
Correct.
So, again, this grant has been a huge benefit for economic development for the village. So I just wanted you to know that all that has occurred. Another update, last Thursday, I went, Trustee Ivan was there, Engineer Koza, Superintendent Spearing, and we had our team, we had Burrell and Molly Ocean from Center for Neighborhood Technology. We were at the Stormwater Utility Seminar down at Willis Tower. Learned a lot, very interesting. I'm not sure that we're anywhere near, all I can say, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Ready for any type of fee for stormwater.
But it gave us a lot of information, so we can at least start thinking about it.
Carl, what did you say? We're nowhere near ready for what?
A fee for stormwater.
A fee?
Yeah, that's what basically what the seminar was about.
About a fee.
How to add it to a bill within the government.
Right.
Oh, like the village charges us a fee?
Yes.
For stormwater?
Yes.
Oh, no. We're nowhere near ready.
We're nowhere near. And actually, some towns, from the time it was proposed to the time it was implemented, it was a 10-year process. We obviously don't have the capacity to do it in-house. Consultants have to be hired, but we did learn a lot. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
We did learn a lot. It
It was
was,
mostly about engineers that were doing the presentations.
no offense, Jeff.
How
So,
they justify charging people
Yeah.
for stormwater?
they do, Downers Grove does it.
That was part of the problem. There was different legalities that you ran into that.
It's just a miss on what we contribute to stormwater. We have the residential property, mostly new land, hopefully grass and pervious, so the fee you would pay is less than someone with the 15 acres of parking lot. Impervious.
Might need to create the stormwater.
What's that?
Might need to create the stormwater.
But it's just a mechanism to fund maintenance or improvements that frankly, it just hasn't been budgeted for by communities.
Yeah, it was alternative methods for
Right.
funding. And some of their calculations that by the engineers, I think were like totally well off the board, meaning how they were figuring it out in the calculations and stuff.
We were there gathering information, weren't we,
Yes.
trustee Ivan?
We were getting.
We were gathering a lot of information, okay? And
Lots of pictures too.
Lots of, yeah, you took pictures. And tomorrow morning, 9:30, some of us will be back here, won't we, Ellen? We have another rain-ready steering committee meeting tomorrow morning, and that's all I have, and I apologize. Yes, Kathy?
Just on those two EPA reports, were those properties pretty clean or not clean or a mess or?
I don't think they found, okay, I'm not an environmental engineer, but from what I could tell there, I do not believe there are any major issues. And I know the attorney read the Chevy report. I do not believe there are any significant issues. Do you concur?
Okay, that's good. Well, that's good news.
It's great news actually, and again, all of this was paid 100% by the United States government. Okay, and it's been a lot of work, but huge success stories because the US EPA looks for success stories. Grills was one, and hopefully we will have 2 more on Cicero Avenue. And again, that might make us eligible for additional funding. I'm done. Okay.
10 minutes and we're coming back.
Trustee Ivan?
A major league.
I won't be attending the rain committee meeting because I'm going to class to be a trustee tomorrow, so it's an all day of that, so I won't be doing that.
We'll miss you. And you'll miss, are we gonna have cookies?
We're having banana bread or banana bread coffee.
You're gonna miss it.
I'm sad.
Go to class. Trustee Gillis.
Yes, a couple of things. Last week we spoke about part-time firefighter salary increase, possible increase. We had a comparison of 15 departments with their base pay and their top pay. The average base pay for the fire departments around us was $14.91. The top pay was $16.80. With those 15 departments, currently the top pay, our department would be considered number 16 out of there. Currently, our part-time firefighters, who are basically a very important part of our department, as you know, we had the transportation program in place now for over a year. If we didn't have our part-time firefighters, we wouldn't be able to do this. So they've been a huge asset. Without them, we would still be relying on dailies. We have an example tonight, firefighter Doug Beck and Ramirez, both were part-time firefighters, now are full-time firefighters. So there is a great need for our firefighters to stay in that top level. I am proposing a salary increase from our current rate of $12.79 an hour to $14 an hour. We'd still be under the base pay that our surrounding 15 departments have, but it's a start. I don't see how we can be competitive with other departments if we don't start bringing up this base pay, because basically they'll just go work at a different department. That's what they do until they become full-time in a department. So I would like to make a motion to increase our part-time firefighter paramedic rate of pay from $12.97 an hour to $14 an hour.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Kilby.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
The next thing is regarding the lawn maintenance of our vacant properties. Obviously, we have a huge eyesore with vacant properties, and we need to get those lawns maintained. Superintendent Sperry with the assistant from Nicole Fagar worked on getting different quotes for various contractors to cut lawns on vacant property and keep up the maintenance. We have determined that GT&L is the lowest bid at basically Initial cut for lot size is up to 15,000 square feet, $45, and then subsequently cutting the lot sizes up to 15,000 square feet at $27. And obviously, we'll continue to put a lien on the properties with the banks to reimburse our expense for doing this. But I would like to make a motion to approve GT&L to take care of well maintenance on our vacant properties.
I have a motion,
I'll second.
discussion.
I just want to say that what we did last year did make a difference. I know there's still quite a few that aren't getting cut yet, but I've seen quite a few that are getting cut this year that weren't last year. So the steps that the village took last year has definitely made it improve.
Yes. And lastly,
Hold on, we need to do roll call.
Okay.
Hang in there, I know you're trying to get to the Hawks game.
No, I'm fine.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
And lastly, I would like to make a motion to have Assistant Superintendent Swanson attend the Certified Stormwater Inspector municipal training. This is going to take place on June 1st and 2nd in Chicago.
I have a motion,
I'll second.
discussion. Roll call.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
That's all I have.
Okay, trustee LaRue.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for setting time and training.
I'd like to remind everyone that this Friday, May 29th, is the annual Cop on Top event. Our police department will be there in droves, I'm sure, and I've heard again that certain people will be on the roof for some time of the day. So it's just to benefit Special Olympics in Illinois. So it starts at 5 a.m. and I hope everyone can get out there and get their coffee this Friday at Park Dunkin' Donuts here on Pulaski. The village newsletter, e-newsletter, is ready to launch June 1st. This is a new thing that Civic Plus has come up with and is offered to our use for free. It's email based, but we will have it archived on our village website, so you can look at it there, and also go to our village website to sign up for the email newsletter. We're going to start off monthly, see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul, we can cut it out by the end of the year. So hopefully it works out well. The first edition looks pretty decent. I know police, fire, everybody has something in there, so it looks pretty cool. And next Thursday is our monthly community policing committee meeting. Next Thursday at 7 o'clock in our police department roll call. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Killily.
Nothing tonight.
Trustee Masko.
Just a few quick updates. I'll be very quick. One reminder that there's just a little over a month left for vehicle stickers to be purchased and displayed, and I know the office is working hard to get through those efficiently, so please don't wait till the last minute to get those. I mentioned a bit earlier regarding water collections. We are working to refine our ordinances with some internal policies, so expect some changes there very soon. We'll keep you updated. And lastly, also related to water, encourage folks to please go online if you haven't already and look at the online PSM portal to either consider getting your bill electronically or at least paying for it electronically. It costs us about $15,000 a year just to print and mail water bills. So everyone that we can get on e-billing will help save a few dollars. Yes, Kathy?
Did you say earlier if we went on e-billing, then we would have the option of paying our bill monthly rather than quarterly?
Yeah, you won't get the bill monthly, at least just yet. We're working to do that, but you can actually set up a payment plan if you figure out what a third of your bill is, or if you have a flat amount you want to pay, you can actually schedule that in advance
And just,
and know that every month on a certain day, you'll pay a certain amount.
awesome, okay.
And that is all I have to say.
Okay. Anything from you? Trustee, I'm sorry, not trustee. Mr. Goza, anything from the engineer?
Yes, real quick, I completed the site plan review of the storage facility at 147 Lawndale. Provided those comments to the building department and the developer's engineer. And also, we're working to make sure we're ready to go on that water main improvement on Cicero Avenue. We have an active EPA permit still, and we're working with IDOT to reactivate their permit for some minor work within Cicero Road. And obviously, rain release tomorrow, so looking forward to that. That was all.
Okay, thank you. Chief Otwagner?
I have nothing.
Chief Kaufman?
I have nothing.
Okay. At this time, I would like to make the appointments for the 2015-16 year. You guys, if I just read them, all of them. Stephen Hotwagner for Fire Chief, David Mama for Deputy Fire Chief, Martin Rita for Deputy Fire Chief, Harold Cogden Jr. for Police Chief, Daniel Delaney for Deputy Chief, Police Chief, Joe Sperry, Superintendent of Public Works, Ty Swanson, Assistant Superintendent of Public Works, Michael Menny-Penny for the Housing Property Inspector, Tom Myatt, Health Inspector, with a new pay rate of $18,000 annually, Matthew Altman, Electric Inspector, Bob Normile, Plumbing Inspector, Christopher Nealon, HVAC Inspector, Jeff Koza, Village Engineer, Hauser Izzo LLC as the Village Attorneys, William Gleason as the Ethics Officer, Charles Hillier as the EMA Director, Ed Olmus to the Police Pension Board, Ryan Command to the Police Pension Board, Louis Seja to the Plan Commission Chairperson, Rosemary O'Connor to the Zoning Board of Appeals Chairperson, Lori Taylor, Historical Society Chairperson, Frank Chihoin, Safety Committee Chairperson, Paul Klimczak, Veterans Committee Co-Chairperson, Dave Twombly is Veteran Committee Co-Chairperson. I'd be looking for your approval for my 2015-16 appointments.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
And for the Village Board of Trustees assignments for this 2015-16 year, yes, I will have Trustee Gillis in charge of the building department, in charge of the beautification committee and the employee safety committee, Trustee Ivan in charge of public works and on the policy committee and the community policing committee, Trustee Killelea in charge of the administration and front office, also on the finance committee, policy committee, and safety committee, Karen Kreis in charge of economic development, the policy committee, veterans committee, and historical society, Trustee LaRue as of the fire department, the EMA liaison, the finance committee, and mayor pro tem, Trustee Maskell as the police department head, and also on the finance committee, and Michael Colstead will be serving on the finance committee and the zoning board of appeals liaison.
What was Alan Moskow's, please?
Alan is in charge of the police department and on the finance committee.
Thank you.
I have a question for clarification.
Yes.
Who has finance? Does that go to, with administration?
Yes, I just forgot the slash, I'm sorry, yes.
And if, just for clarification, to follow our ordinance, I think for me, it should be economic development or economic/community development.
Okay, I can change that too.
Community development, yeah.
Okay, I can change that. And that's all I have for this evening. Clerk's business.
I have nothing.
Okay. With nothing else to come before the board this evening, at 8:13, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Go Hawks.